Okay, hi everyone, it's Dr. Carlos Rivera here in front of Family Court in Central Islip. And today was a very interesting day for Mr. Michael Gilligan. We're here at the John P. Cohanlon Jr. Courthouse. But today was a day for fathers and anybody, any victim of court who's particularly a victim of the silver bullet with false accusations in court to have their day in court. And one of the things that I want to stand out, we have a few activists here that I'll introduce in a moment. We have Mr. Gary Jacobs, of course, Michael Gilligan, Smash Parental Alienation, Edmund Welsh of Disgusted Dads, and director and activist Mr. Felix Leo Campos is here on behalf of Michael Gilligan. And one of the things I found most disturbing about this case is that it will be explained in detail by the other individuals who are going to be interviewed. But Mr. Michael Gilligan, as I was listening to the testimony and the critiques in the court, he's a father who's trying to establish relationships with his son and to establish visitation. His efforts to contact his ex-wife to establish communication to see his children is blocked. There's no answers of his texts, emails, or phone calls. Yet when he attempts to see his children, because his efforts are being blocked, he finds himself the victim of an order of protection, which I find very troubling. And I was glad that the motion was dismissed today. I'll let everybody else bring this out. But again, it's very important for us to get out and support each other. Of course, as a pediatrician, I'm fighting for the rights of children, to protect them from parental alienation, which is a form of child abuse that I feel should be a legally punishable form of child abuse, and as my continued fight, my lifelong fight at this point. But there's other activists here who not only fight for parental alienation awareness and protection of children, but also to protect our civil rights and protect the rights of mothers and fathers in the courts. So in the sake of time, because Felix and Edmund came here and have quite a bit of driving to do in rush hour traffic, I'm going to now introduce Mr. Edmund Welsh, who's of Disgusted Dads, and he's going to give us a little bit of why he came here to support everyone and what he thought of today's proceedings. So Edmund, I want to say thank you for coming around.
All right, how you guys doing?
That's Mr. Edmund Welsh, everyone. Thank you. Thank you
man,
for coming,
Carlos, how you doing?
Edmund Welsh of Disgusted Dads, thank you for coming out. I thought it was a very I was very flattered that you came out here and made the trip and to show your support today. I know it wasn't easy for you to get here,
right.
But tell us a little bit about why you came and what you thought of what happened today.
Well, of course, this was a court watch. This was a support of fathers and fathers' rights and family law reforms, advocacy for transparency and accountability in our family courts. So to have heard that, I was very thankful to have gotten the invitation and be made aware that out here in Suffolk County that there was going to be an opportunity today to support fathers. I'm a friend of Mike Gilligan's. I'm so happy that today went so well for him, and that at least we were able to somewhat begin showing others that it's just a simple matter of showing up, really, just being here, just be involved, engage in family court, engage in your children's lives, and engage in assisting fathers so that we can help the movement grow.
Edmund, I found one of your comments interesting. I'd like for you to kind of explain a little bit. We're actually happy today at how it went, but I find it, what are your thoughts on a father who's brought up on charges of needing an order of protection for his attempts to see his children, and why is it that you're surprised that it went well today if the charges were unfounded?
Well, because this is family court. So we always look forward to coming in, getting the bad news, and then, looking forward to the next date. Usually that's what family court is actually intent on, frustrating fathers. So to have gotten a fair and obvious, clearly, that the court clearly understood that there was no violations, there was no criminal acts committed by a father who actually wanted to see his child. I was very heartened. I was very happy to hear a court recognize that the father's actions were totally and completely just to initiate a contact, to maintain a presence in the child's life, and not to be used as fodder to promote
interrupted there. Edmund, I want you to kind of comment. I'm sorry about the interruption in the broadcast, but I'd like for you to comment in that. How do you feel about the fact that it's been 7 months since Michael Gilligan was able to see his children, even though one of his children is reaching out to him for contact? And do you think what are your thoughts on what the quote-unquote silver bullet preventing a father or a loving parent from seeing their children, and the fact that even though today's order of protection was dismissed, Michael Gilligan still hasn't seen his children for 7 months. There's been no repercussions for his ex to keep the children for him, and his chances of still seeing his children at this point.
Well, we understand that, you know, as good as the decision was, that the decision is only, you know, outside here. She's left. She's probably on her way, well on her way to reinventing a new allegation, reinventing a new process to further separate him from his children. And this is what the practice and policies are with these mothers in family court. I mean, today we got a slight victory, but in the context, we have not reformed family court. And the fact that the family court is used as tools for parents to separate children, mainly mothers, to use fathers. I mean, use the courts to separate the children from the fathers.
I want to point out, Edmund, because a lot of times there's some criticism that a lot of the groups focus just on fathers' rights and dismissing any thought or consideration that mothers can be victim of the system also. How do you feel? Do you acknowledge that there are women are also affected by family court and can get unjust rulings as well?
Yes, I do. I will acknowledge that women can be victims of family court, but this is a predominantly scheme against males. And it's not just because family court is just the only one involved, but we have the stakeholders with Department of Education, we have the stakeholders in housing, who also benefit off of the continuous flow of participants that family court doles out to these other systems, whether it be domestic abuse and sheltering for women, or just housing for a single mother of two. It all begins with family court. She must have a family court order to go along with the applications, and so this is why it continuously just restructures itself.
If I understand you correctly, are you suggesting that there's a financial incentive by the court and the system to act in the way they act right now? Is that what you're implying?
The financial incentive wouldn't be by the court. The court is the mule. The incentive is enjoyed by those who are controlling the court, the stakeholders outside of the court. The court is, I like to consider the court as a puppet, or I like to liken it as a bus station. You just go into a court just to head off to another destination, but the court is the substation.
Okay, no, thank you for commenting. Is there any other things that you want to kind of let the viewers know? And I just want to thank you, everybody, for joining us today.
I mean, this is great. This is fabulous. I want the viewers to know, especially the fathers, that this is what we need to do. That we need to join up. Yo, we need to show, man, strength and solidarity along, whether it be the racial lines, the economic lines, the political lines, the religious lines. We're all fathers. We're all fathers. You know what I mean? And we're all here to represent the common cause of all dads. You know what I mean? So let's get it together, fathers, support one another, come out for each other, and let's get family court to act accordingly. That's the reform. It begins with us.
Edmund, thank you for coming out. Really appreciate you coming out all this way.
Thank you very much.
So much.
Thank you very much.
All right, for everyone who just joined us, that's Mr. Edmund Welch of Disgusted Dads, came here from Brooklyn, New York. So I want to thank you for making that trip. It wasn't easy for him, but again, showing the commitment that we need to show each other. We need to unify, show up at court, and let the judiciary know that we're watching. I have also a friend and colleague here, Mr. Felix Leo Campos, who, Felix, perhaps you can join us. Mr. Felix Leo Campos is an activist as well as a documentary director and director for After Dark Filmworks. So, Felix, thank you for coming down. I want to get your thoughts on your observations today and why you're here.
I'm obviously, along with Edmund and everybody else, I'm happy for the outcome. I'm happy for the outcome of today's decision. And the reason why I came out here is for support, you know, to show numbers, to show that there are fathers that are involved in their children's lives or want to be involved in their children's lives. They're teaming up, if you will, with others who are in the same situation to support one another and to make a movement grow that will help protect non-custodial dads as parents.
You know, Felix, I had made a comment earlier in the broadcast about the premise today was that Mr. Gilligan was accused of acting in a threatening manner for leaving signs outside the house that he loves his children. Yet there was never any mention that he should never be on the premises. Or part of my personal question is that, as an alienated parent, if you do not make an attempt to see your children, you're a bad parent, you're a deadbeat dad, deadbeat mother. Yet when you try to establish communication and the custodial parent denies you access, how do you feel about that? Is it a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situation?
Well, the idea that you're a non-hands-on or absentee dad because you don't make any attempts of being in the lives of your children doesn't take into account the difficulties that non-custodial dads face as non-custodial dads. Not just having to set up schedules, but also enforcing the schedules and enjoying the time that they have with their kids. You know, it happens to 8 out of every 10 men who are fathers in divorce and cases of separation. They're the non-custodial parent, and this is something that they have to deal with. However, the cause and the effect is never associated with the courts or whatever objections or prohibitions that are done to prevent men from being fathers to their children.
Mm-hmm. It's a big point, and I appreciate you coming out. I've actually had the privilege and the honor of having you join me on some of my efforts, and you know, I always thank you for all your efforts and your film productions, and it's always enlightening to see you in the city protests. So I know that you know, Felix is out there, not just in Manhattan and the boroughs, but Felix really comes out wherever he can reach to be here as a support to other families, fathers and mothers, anybody who suffered an injustice in the family court, and also to protect the rights of children and keep children from the harm of parental alienation. In this matter, with any parent that's trying to establish communication with their children, what are your comments on the effects it potentially has on children that are kept from a loving parent, either mother or father?
Well, I'm sure that there are statistics, I don't know who would have published them, but there are statistics now that show that people as adults are in the same family court situations that they may have faced as children. So this is an ongoing thing, generationally speaking, so it's nothing new. However, what is new is the organization of committees, grassroots groups and formal organizations to bring attention and awareness and to bring about change in the system so that it is impartial, it is objective, and it does accomplish doing what's in the best interest of the children and letting men be fathers to them as well.
Okay. Felix, you know, I want to thank you again. I look forward to working on some of the projects we talked about today.
Yeah, good ideas.
Felix has a couple of things in the works that I think will be very successful in getting the word out and helping victims of family court alienation.
Yeah, that's our documentary, Men Are Parents Too. And what differentiates our documentary is that we want to do reenactments.
Felix, I'm sorry, Sir Felix. Yeah.
No, we want to do reenactments of courtroom scenes, much like what we went through today, so that people will not only hear things from a second or third hand, but also from the actual court records of what transpired.
So what you're saying is a reenactment series of actual court cases in family court.
That's correct. All
right. So thank you.
Humanize the whole process. Because right now it's an inhuman, illogical process.
I appreciate that coming out.
You're welcome, man.
Felix, this is, again, Mr. Felix Leo Campos, director and activist. Felix, where can the listeners find you?
They can find me on Facebook under my name, Felix Leo Campos. Our website is afterdarkcatv.org. We're on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. We're on the social media. Just look us up.
Okay, Felix.
Our videos are on YouTube.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, man.
Felix, thank you for coming out. Always great to see you, Felix.
Likewise,
Thank you. Okay, so here we are. You got to go? All right, so this is the man of the hour. We still have another person I'd like to interview, Mr. Gary Jacobs and Mr. Randy Bizogi. But Mike, tell us a little bit about today. You have a lot of people watching you right now. Tell us a little bit about what led to today and your feelings on today's events.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank everybody who came out to my my event. for the court watch. Gary Jacobs, yourself, Carlos Rivera, Randy, disgusted dads Edmund Welsh and Leo Campos.
Keith?
And Keith Tomzik. I'm full of adrenaline right now. We did beat this. The order of protection's been vacated. This all came about back in September when I was served this order of protection. And the petition consisted of 2 days in August where I showed up on stipulated time to visit my children. And somehow that was turned into, in the petition, to be some kind of harassing, stalking thing. And the ex went before court on September 2nd, 2016 and got a temporary order of protection. Since then, I've had a lot of support from people in the movement. I'm a member of Americans for Legal Reform.
Yep. It just came back. So I want to apologize to everybody. We have poor signal connection here. It's a cloudy day, but we got Michael is coming back to finish up some statements. But Michael, as you head back, one of the things I found most troublesome and that I fight for is family law reform and parental alienation awareness. What troubled me the most was that you're a loving father trying to connect with your children and to see them. You attempt to contact your ex-wife to see the children, and she doesn't respond to texts, emails, or other forms of contact. So when you show up at the house to try to let the boys know that you love them and you want to be an active part in their lives, next thing you know, you're a victim of the silver bullet, false allegations of harassment. And perhaps you could say quickly something on that and then continue where you left off.
It's, it basically comes down to a lack of empathy of the other parent. That's the only thing that could it's just a lack of empathy of the other parent, and the negative influences that are being pushed upon my two sons. It's enormous, and the biggest thing is I can't protect them from it, and this order of protection was really designed to keep me away from my children. It had nothing to do with protecting anybody. The bottom line is that I feel good at the moment. The adrenaline is still flowing in me. I have a lot of different thoughts going through my head right now. I'm just very grateful. I'm very grateful for the support that my friends are showing me, the friends who are watching right now, the people who came and watched in the courtroom, Edmund Welch, Leo Campos, Gary Jacobs, Carlos Rivera, Randy Bazzogi, and Keith Tomzik. I'm grateful to you, and for all you watching and following and that made comments on my event to Court Watch. I appreciate it very much. Mom, Bill, if you're listening, I love you. Thank you for your support. I spent some time with them last week. I'll have more to say about this later. Right now, I'm just going to soak it in. And unfortunately, I'm pressed for time because I have to go to, I'm a school bus driver and I have a refresher class tonight and it starts in a little while, so I got to go.
Michael, take care. Best wishes.
I love you.
All right, take care of yourself, buddy. Be good.
I'll see you later.
Okay, so we have Mr. Gary Jacobs here of Long Island Backstory, also the president of Americans for Legal Reform. Gary, before we really start commentary, one of my concerns with today is that although this petition was dismissed and Michael's been cleared of any wrongdoing, I still find it very, very sad that there's no guarantee that he will see his children. And it's been 7 months since this order of protection was issued. It was dismissed today, but there's no mention of the lost parenting time and any promise that he'll be able to reestablish with his sons without being interfered by the custodial parent.
Yeah, actually, there's a lot of excitement. Everyone's happy about what happened because it's one of those days where I guess you could say justice prevailed, but I'm still pissed off. I'm pissed off for a couple reasons. First of all, when she filed this vindictive bitch ex-wife of his, who's a fucking alienator, when she filed this fucking petition 7 months ago, it should have been thrown out. But you had a piece of shit judge, Judge Spinner, who allowed this to go through, even though as part of her evidence there was a police report that said no crime was committed. Even if you looked at everything in her petition, there was no family offense committed. Nothing whatsoever. Mike did the right thing. He went back to court and I said, Mike, don't worry about it. Just go to the judge. He went there and he said, look, there's no prima facie case, which means even based on the evidence, if everything that she says is true, there's no family offense. I didn't go to frickin' law school, thank God. Mike didn't go, you didn't go. We all knew that there was no family offense committed, yet this judge let it go on. Not only did he let it go on, 7 months he didn't see his kids. So not only is Spinner a piece of shit, his wife's a piece of shit, what about this corrupt motherfucker in court, Randall Henricks, sitting up there, Carlos, turn it around, sitting up on that floor right there. We wrote a letter to him telling him that my father were being violated. We wrote it 2 months ago. We told him, don't look at the case, get him into court, give him his goddamn day in court. He was withheld from his children for 7 months. Who's going to make that right? And yes, Judge Hughes did the right thing today. But you know where he fell short? He should have referred it to the DA. Because this bitch of a wife, you know what she did? She filed a false police report. She admitted in court, on the stand, under oath, that she lied and filed a false police report. She said, when Mike asked her if there was anything in the signs that made her felt harassed, she said, no, there was nothing harassing. Yet she filed a police report that he left harassing signs. Which one is it? She's a liar. And she used it as a tool. And everyone says it didn't work. Guess what? It worked. She kept him for 7 months. What damage has been done in 7 months that this father didn't get to see his children?
Gary, I'd like to comment on your thoughts on lawyers who suggest using these orders of protection and continue to defend them in court.
But you know what? A lot of lawyers are scumbags. A lot of them are scumbags. I think it's the ex-wife. She's the one, number one, who filed the petition. I don't care if a lawyer tells you, Carlos, to go out and shoot your ex-wife. Would you do it? No, of course not. So it doesn't matter what the lawyer says. It's up to you to do what they say. So I don't know if anybody advised her to do this or not. But the stop should have been the judge. When Mike had his first day in court and said, Judge, based on what's in front of the court, there is no family offense committed. The judge should have stopped it. And when he didn't stop it, and Americans for Legal Reform wrote a letter to a corrupt judge, Judge Henricks, sitting up there on the 8th floor, I think, in his little tower up there. He didn't stop it either. So he's guilty of violating Mr. Gilligan's constitutional rights. For 7 freaking months, he didn't see his kids. So some people in court were saying, hey, this went well. He had a good law guardian today. And you know what? I think his original law guardian, Teresa Mowry, started to realize what was going on here as the case went on. And I have to say, I said some harsh words against her. But I will say the last time when she started to hear, and I think the turning point was when Mike said, all I want to do is have my son. I want to get my day in court, but I want to have my son. I miss Christmas. I miss New Year's. I want to speak to my son for his birthday, and I want to tell him I loved him. And the judge said, "Are you okay with that, Mrs. Gilligan?" And she looked at the law guardian and shook her head no. And the law guardian said, "What's the big deal? But of course you'll call him." And I think at that point, so Teresa Mary, the law guardian, did turn around. So you know what? As hard as I was before, I will say at least she did do the right thing and started to turn around. As far as the attorney for the children who handled the case today, yes, he did the right thing, but he should have done the right thing. Everybody here was so surprised that the man was doing the right thing. Burton, his name was. And he was very capable. So to me, the important thing was that he was a capable attorney. He did the right thing. He kept it to the point that there was no family offense committed. And I have to give him, yes, I have to give him credit, because most law guardians don't do the right thing. And I could see Miss Gilligan's attorney giving him the evil eyes, but he still did the right. It's not. Let me tell you, it's not easy doing the right thing when you're sticking up for a father in this horrible place over here known as the family court. But you know what? Now the tables have turned, because now Mike's got all the control. Number one, this bitch filed a false police report. She filed a false report in court. There's a case called the Young case, Young versus Young, where it says, in essence, that if you file false police reports or reports to keep one parent from the other child, you're not fit to be a parent. And Mrs. Gilligan, whatever the fuck, Deborah, I don't know, Deborah Gilligan, you are not fit to be a parent. You are a piece of shit who shouldn't have contact because you're a child abuser. What you did was fucking disgusting, and you should be ashamed. And I hope everybody in your community, I hope they all see this and see what kind of a person or mother you are, because guess what? I hope Mike gets your ass arrested. I hope he files a lawsuit in federal court for violating his constitutional rights to be a father to his child. I also hope he goes to try to reverse the custody and change the custody around based on what you just did.
Gary, as an active court watcher and the president of Americans for Legal Reforms, have you ever seen perjury prosecuted?
I've never seen it,
but
I've never seen it prosecuted. But really, this judge should have right then said, "I'm referring this case to the district attorney for prosecution," because he was kept from his job. No, but doesn't matter. Mike can go civilly. Forget this piece of crap building behind here where there's no justice. Go to justice and get a jury. Take her to federal court and sue her ass and get a jury to see what she did. That's where you're going to get justice, Mike.
Okay, Gary, I want to thank you for coming on. Gary, I do have one more comment with you, and I'm very happy to be associated with you and actually to learn from you and everything you've done in the courts and for Americans for Legal Reform. But Gary, you and I have had private conversations about...
If they're private, why are you talking about them?
Well, they're no longer private because I'm divulging them. But my concern is the effects on the children. You have a loving father who's being kept from his children, and in my consideration, each day spent away from an alienated parent is a day more of damage and harm to the children. And can you comment to the listeners and to viewers how they feel, or how you feel about children being exposed to alienation and the hopes of them reestablishing connection after years of being programmed?
Well, of course, Deborah Gilligan won. Make no mistake. In her mind, she won because she just kept the kids from Mike for 7 months. That damage is done forever because now those kids have been brainwashed without any counterweight for months and months and months. I can tell you right now, now they don't want to see him because they're scared. They're this, they're that. What damage was done? What message was sent